You know when I know this man's happy? When he's got a little box in his hand and it's got something to do with his video games? Still Bolton's here. Is it? Yeah, okay,
absolutely.
cool. So what's this one?
So I'm going to make a little pun here because
Okay.
I'm good at that. Not as good as you, but I was going to say video game development is a far cry from what it used to be. And of course, what I'm talking about is Far Cry Primal, which is the latest game in the Far Cry series, which came out yesterday. And the reason why I'm talking about this game in particular was because I was fortunate enough to get invited to Ubisoft's studio in Toronto, where they have a motion capture studio set up, which is pretty cool. And it is so amazing to be part of the process. So there's the cover of the game. One of the interesting things about this game, Far Cry is typically a shooter game. So if you play video games, you understand what that means. But because this is set in 10,000 BC, Ted, guess what?
I'm not born yet?
And there are no guns. So, in 10,000 BC, what we basically had was, spears and bow and arrow. So that was actually the sort of the time period when the bow and arrow just started. What's fascinating about this game, though, and how sort of to show what effort has been put into creating games like this today, is that Ubisoft actually created a language. So the game is not, there's no English in the game. The game is subtitled, which actually, on the upside sort of makes localization a little bit easier because the subtitles are simply changed for the region that the game's in. But the actors actually spoke this language. And I actually got to meet the lead actress in the game. We actually have a picture of me standing with her actually with a motion capture suit on. And so that's very fascinating. So you can see there's the picture right there. So that's myself with Kara Ricketts. And so she's in the game and she's actually holding, what she's holding in her hand there actually gets translated to a knife in the game. And it's pretty cool because, they have this technology now that allows you to, for example, they had a custom piece of hardware where the camera was on the end of this box, and as we moved the box around where Kara was standing, you could actually see what she looks like in the video game, in the setting. And so the cinematics director can get a feel for is everything on track and so on. Whereas before, all this kind of stuff had to be rendered. It took days. So it's almost like improving the dailies, as it were, as they would with typical motion pictures.
Do you have to learn the language to be able to win at the game?
No, you don't have to learn the language because the subtitles are there, but
Okay.
the actors had to learn the language. And so, for example, we actually acted out one of the scenes with Kara. So I actually played like an extra. I was a guy with a spear, and really it was just a stick. But in the game, it shows up as a spear. And so, although we actually had to learn a couple of words, but what was amazing is that they actually created this whole language with 40,000 words in it that actually were probably pretty close to what the language would have sounded like, because they actually took the language that we know of, because of course we don't have any recorded language from 10,000 BC. So they sort of have to make some assumptions. So we do have some understanding of what early primitive language was like. And of course, a lot of the language that we speak today is derived from that. So they kind of went in reverse and decided what the language might have actually started out like and sounded like. So just an amazing process to go through. And, I talk about video games, I love video games, but to actually be sort of right inside the process of how video games were made was pretty cool for me.
You become immortal. You're going to be here forever in this video game.
Well, I'm not actually in the game, but I did get to see how the process was done. So
okay. I thought you were an extra.
No, well, I was just in a scene that we recreated. But it's be fun for me because I can actually now see that scene in the finished product and see what it was like to be part of the process versus how it looks in the final cut. So I only just went and did this a couple weeks ago, and so it was a lot of fun. So thanks to Ubisoft Toronto for inviting me out and letting me see the process firsthand. Really an eye opener. You see these things on TV or you read about them or hear about them, but to actually be there and be part of it is great. And I haven't tried the game yet, but it just came out yesterday. But I haven't been feeling the greatest. But I'm looking forward to trying it, and I love the other Far Cry games. So Far Cry Primal, check it out if you want to find out how. The the real difference in how video games are made today versus how far we've come from Pong, Ted. And I know we've talked about Pong many times.
Yeah, I was a model for the Pong game.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in to Get Better.
No problem. Thanks.
Sid Bolton's with us always on a Wednesday, as we would do a Thursday with our friends from the SPCA. They're going to be here, and we're going to have personal services coffee. We got new flavors. And also, Brent and his band are going to be here from Army, Navy, Air Force in Brantford. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for doing it inside Brant.